Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show where we talk about all things home and healing. I've got some funny light again. Okay, bear with me. We're going to just see what we can do. That looks a little better. All right. So it's almost Labor Day. It's actually like a lot of people are starting early because, it's almost 11 o'clock here in California. So some of you on the East Coast have already been let loose early to celebrate the 3-day weekend. And so, what are you doing to celebrate this weekend? A lot of people do picnics, maybe they go camping. It used to be this was the last weekend before school started, but now schools start much earlier. I don't know why. It seems to me that I would rather have kids in the classroom in June when it's not so hot than in August, September when it's the hottest month of the year. And I know when I was a kid, that was not a fun time to be in school at all. So, anyway, I'm not the school board, so what do I have to say about it? Not much. They don't care. But let's talk about now. A lot of things happen this weekend. So we've got parties. People are doing outdoor parties. So how amazing would it be? Now it's too late to do it for this weekend, right? But how amazing would it be for you to have an outdoor room next year? How amazing would it be for you to be able to celebrate? I mean, I'm in California, so you could even have your outdoor space for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Years ago, we had friends that did a day after Christmas thing, and they invited all their friends. And it was outside because there was like 30, 40 people there, and that's kind of where it fit. It was on their patio. And they turned their patio into a great big dining room. And they brought heaters in and stuff. So it wasn't too cold. It was very nice, really. Did dress warm, but it's not like we got snow on the ground or nothing, right? So this is something that can add space to your house. And it's one of the easiest ways for you to add space to your house because you don't have to do a foundation. You don't have to do walls and a ceiling and everything. You can make a room very simply. You can buy a gazebo. There's all different kinds of gazebos, from little metal ones and to beautiful wood ones. It just depends on what you want to do. And there's a thing that I've seen lately. It's been around for a little while, so it's not new. Like it's not new, but it's very cool. I want one of these. I'm working on one of these. So what it does is it's got louvers on the top for the ceiling, so you can control how much sun gets on you. And when it rains, it automatically shuts. So that way you don't have to worry about your patio furniture. How cool is that? Now, California, we usually get plenty of warning for rain. It's not that big a deal. But I know, like back in Colorado, it just rains like that out of nowhere. It can be a beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden, bam, it's raining. And I know the further east you get, there's a lot more rain. You're up in Seattle, it rains like 300 days a year. Like, why bother putting your patio furniture out, right? It's like you got to keep it covered with plastic the whole time. But with these louvers that automatically close when it senses rain, you don't have to worry about that. And you can go out and enjoy the sun. And, you know, if you do live someplace where there's a lot of heavy sun, you can choose how much sun do you want in. So you can still get the sunlight coming in on you, but maybe it doesn't have to be glaring in your eyes. You know how that is? Ugh, no fun. So doing that and then finding some cool furniture. It's amazing what can be done with just finding the right furniture to create the atmosphere that you want. Add some plants, you know? this doesn't have to be an expensive thing. Now, there's lots of things you can do. This can be a six-figure project if you want it. And a lot of yard projects do get that high. And so it's possible. You can create your own wonderland out there. But it doesn't have to be. You can find some furniture, get a pergola, get that you can go to like Target or Home Depot and you can buy these little tents, things that you put up that got metal on the side, metal poles, and it's two people. It's pretty easy to put together. And then there's like a mesh material on the top or tarp-like material on the top. And so that's another way to create that room. And then you add some plants. There's so many beautiful planters out there. Oh my gosh. Like just go looking on, I love Toscano. Have you seen Design Toscano? Oh my gosh. They have the funniest things. They have like faces that you put on trees. They have statuaries that you put in your pond and all kinds of stuff. It's really fun. And that's another thing to do. So, did you know that if you look at water for 20 minutes, it calms you down? Yeah. That's why people love going to the beach. That's why people love going to the lake, to the river. And there's mountain people and water people. A lot of people are water people. But the water does have a calming effect, and the mountains have a calming effect no matter which one you are. But some people are attracted more to one than the other. So especially if you're a water person, build yourself a pond. It's easy. It takes some work. It takes a little muscle power, but it's easy. When I bought my house, we had 2 ponds. Now, never in a million years would I have thought to have a pond. Why do I need a pond? I just wasn't in my realm of what I would put in the yard. But now it's been a long time. And I love my pond. I do. And I've got a fountain in it, little fountain in it. So at night, when it's quiet outside, I can hear the fountain going, the water rippling. It's so relaxing. It's so beautiful. You're stressed out, just go sit by the pond for 20 minutes and watch your heart rate go down. Watch your body calm down. I've had times in my life, I've talked about my miscarriage and stuff. And let me tell you, that pond was my best friend at that time. Because just being near the water helped me deal with all the stuff that was going on inside that I didn't know what to do with. It was crazy. So, and maybe you don't want to do a whole pond, do a fountain. See, it doesn't have to be a big body of water. You've got an apartment? Yeah, all you got to do is get a little fountain. Get them anywhere. Any of these home stores have them for like $20. And just having the sound of that water nearby can make a big difference. It really can. It's very soothing to the soul. Hey, Mark.
Hey, you mentioned water.
Yeah.
The reason you mentioned water and got me just pop in just for a second is I'm a little bit weird and a little bit different because I know a lot of people like washing clothes just because for the sake of washing clothes, but I like to wash clothes because of the sound of running water. So it can be very therapeutic as you're listening to the water running when you're washing clothes or even washing dishes. Because I was actually washing some dishes early today. Wasn't a lot. It was like maybe about 8 or 9 items that needed to be washed, and I was doing the hand washing and everything. But to your point, sometimes just hearing the sound of the water, whether it's the sound of a washing machine or the sound of the dishwasher running on your hand, can be very therapeutic. Some people may think that that is a weird thing for a guy to say, but hey, I'm just telling you the way I feel about it, and all along those lines and everything. But it can be quite therapeutic to have that water run across your hands and all along those lines. So since you were talking about water, I just thought I'd share my thoughts as to how water, it can be the simple sound of a washing machine for about 40, 45 minutes, or the simple washing of the dishes for about 10 or 15 minutes. So, like I said, it's simple pleasures, but it does involve water.
Well, I have to say, I've never really paid attention to the sound of the washing machine on that level, and but there's some truth in what you're saying. Is that sound of the water is very soothing, and
Mhm.
if you're in an apartment, you have some limited space as far as what you're going to do. So you can have a fountain. Even
Right.
just putting your feet in a bucket of water can make a
Mhm.
big difference.
Mhm.
If you've got a patio, a lot of apartments have patios. You can go get like a little pool, like a blow up pool, and you can just you can do your own splashing in water, right?
Yeah.
We need to be kids again. A couple of years ago, it was such a hot summer. Oh my God, it was terrible here, and
Well,
I
and
then I
like not only
have a
that,
blow up pond, and I put salt in it because salt water is so amazing to have a salt pool. And I had a client who had a salt pool, and she's like, Jeanette, come over. And I did a couple times, but
hey,
I was
Jeanette,
like, make my own.
Jeanette, along those same lines, I was just thinking, I was talking to mom earlier today and talked to her a couple of times. We try to check in on our folks that are older and everything like that. And of course, you always want to check in on mom, and I have a good relationship with my mom. But she's got two things going on that you will find interesting. One is she was getting the swimming pool maintained, and all along those lines, they'll be closing it shortly because, believe it or not, even though it's still relatively warm, even though it's not super hot, and it definitely isn't super humid, because we're actually having a mild August. I think the weatherman said that this is the first time in a long time that we did not hit 90s, and we will not hit 90s. I think the highest we'll get will be in the 80s. So this has actually been a mild August and everything. So hopefully September will be similar, but definitely the nephews may go get one more dip in the swimming pool before she has to shut down the swimming pool. But mom's got this new critter, and I don't think the new critter has discovered the swimming pool yet. And I'm scared if the new critter discovers the water and the pool and everything like that. Because, like I think I mentioned on the show, mom used to have big dogs. Like she had a big Great Dane, she had a big one of those Matsons or one of them other kind of big dogs that begins with an M. It wasn't that one, but it definitely was a big furry dog and everything like that. But now she's got a Shih Tzu. And by the fact, the Shih Tzu, she was going to pick it up from the vet the last time I talked to her, but she got like
Yeah.
a little cute Shih Tzu and everything like that. And I'm going like, I hope the Shih Tzu has not discovered, because the Shih Tzu has discovered the carport, but I hope the Shih Tzu has not discovered the swimming pool, because I'd hate for the Shih Tzu, because it's a little dog, to jump in the water and be all wet and very messy and everything like that. But hey, maybe the Shih Tzu has discovered the swimming pool. I'll have to ask mom whether it's discovered the swimming pool yet or not, or maybe it'll just dive with little paws in the water and everything like that. But she's loving her dog, because she wanted a dog that would be more manageable, and a Shih Tzu is a smaller breed, so it's much more manageable, and she's loving it. The dog is literally laying down by her feet and definitely is enjoying being a mama's dog. You heard of a mama's boy? It's being a mama's dog.
Nice, nice. Well,
Yes,
that's
it's
the thing with
fascinating.
the pond. The pond has been so fascinating over the years, and so the city comes in and puts special algae fish in it, algae eating fish in it regularly. I don't know. They don't tell me they're coming. I go in, all of a sudden there's a bunch of fish there. Okay. Sometimes they leave a note, and um, that's nice.
It's
But
nice.
unless the fish are all hibernating, and I don't know, because like I'm not a pond expert, but the raccoons love the pond, and they come in, and at night they'll go in, they'll splash around. All the cats, it's like cat TV. Like the cats, all the neighborhood cats come and they sit there and they watch the pond and they watch the pond. And my cats, especially, they sit there. No, they're very guarded. Like that's their TV. Nobody else is going in there, and they don't want anybody else near that. That's their pond. So, and the birds come by, and I mean, it's its own little ecosystem. And
Mhm.
I mean, City
No,
girl.
those are wonderful ecosystems. My dad has a pond. I think he still got it. I got to go visit him shortly or in the next day or two and check on him just in general and everything. But I knew used to have a pond in his backyard that was all turtles. So he had a turtle pond. He had a couple of ponds in the house that were like a couple of aquariums, I should say, that had different turtles. But he had like in the back a turtle pond. I mean, he had the big turtle that passed away, which was Buttercup. Yeah, that was the name of the turtle. It was a big boxer, so like the big turtle that walks around and all along those lines. But he also had a lot of little smaller turtles, and that's what was in the back pond. And I think they're still in the back pond and everything. But there's like so it was cat TV for but instead of for the stars being fish, the stars were turtles, and the stars were the turtles, and all along those lines. But definitely, I'm sure the cats and the dogs in the neighborhoods were still probably going over there checking it out, going like, "Wonder what the turtles are doing. Wonder what Mr. and Miss Turtle are up to today," and everything like that. So I'm sure that they were doing that. Before I get out of here and let you go back to talking about the topic that you're dealing with, which is water. We love water and everything. What is your thoughts around a small, like not a pond, but it's like those little deck row things that you see that sometimes have the water dripping through them that can be very effective in an apartment? I was thinking about maybe going to a flea market in the next day or two and getting one of those. I need like maybe a stand-up mirror, so I might need to go to the flea market anyway and everything like that. But I was wondering your thoughts around the decorative waterfalls that can be nice in an apartment.
It
So
can
they're
be
like,
very nice in an apartment, and again, the sound is very soothing, and the presence of water, running water, is very soothing, and it's also great feng shui. And
mm-hmm,
so, if you look at, I'm not a feng shui expert. I know a little bit. I always say I know enough to be dangerous and not enough to really have an impact. But because I've done feng shui in my house, I'm like, I don't see it. I'm not saying it's bunk. I just haven't seen it in my world. So, um, but yeah, there's areas that you can put a fountain to bring in good luck, to bring in money, to bring in romance, and there's details of when that's good and when that's not good. And I
go
don't know.
back
I
up.
don't know them off the top of
Hold
my
on a second. Back up, Jeanette. You mean that there's a place that you can tell me where I can put a fountain in the house that will bring romance, or if it's a bad romance, it'll get the romance out of the house? So that you're telling me that there are fountain places that I can use to help in my romantic magic, which is not really going that way.
absolutely.
But there's no romantic magic lately. There might be some long distance friends and acquaintances, but nothing happened in the home front. So there's places that I can put a fountain that may change that.
So the rules of feng shui say yes.
Okay.
I have done feng shui. I've done a lot of different things for feng shui. I one of the things you can do for romance is next to your bed,
Uh huh.
you want to have um, some pink quartz, or it's
Pink
not
what?
pink. What is it? It's not quartz. Let me go get the stone. I'll show you.
Okay. She's going to get the stone so I can see what kind of stone is going to be the magical stone. We all need a magical stone. So she's going to find the magical stone. The magic stone. What do you Jeanette thinks about stand-up mirrors?
Okay, well, I can't find my pink stone, but it's a pink. I'll think about what the name is, but it's a pink stone, and it's I can look it up real quick maybe.
Yeah.
But here's what you want to do. So here's the thing for relationships and feng shui. So a lot of times when people are single, they'll just kind of like take up the second part of the bed, and maybe they'll push the bed against the wall, and and so you want to make sure that there's still space for somebody to move in there.
Gotcha.
So if you have a side table there, a
Hmm.
bedside table, don't put stuff in it that, like, don't fill it with junk. You want to
Gotcha.
fill it in with romance things. So you find a picture in a magazine of relationship you want. Write a list of what do I want in my relationship. Put that there. If there's like, you know,
No, that
what
makes
do I?
sense.
But if like you can put, what would you want to do with a partner? So like put things that show what you want life with that partner might be. Maybe you want to cook together. Put a cookbook there.
That
If
makes sense.
there's a wonderful book, it's a really fun book. I think it's called 101 Nights of Great Sex. And it's kind of like, remember when we were kids, they had the books, you had to open them up. So they have 101, they're date nights.
Right.
Okay. So 12 date nights. But you, each one's a secret. So one partner's supposed to look at it and it tells you this is a $1, this is a $4. So you can have a cheap night, you can have an expensive night. So it gives you a little bit of information on the front, so this is something I want to play with or not. And then you rip it out and you open it, and one partner then does it, and the other person gets to be the recipient, and you take turns. So you know, romance Dr. Jeanette, I highly recommend.
No, that's good. I like that idea.
Having that book there, so having stuff like that, having some romance books, maybe whatever that means for you, put some romance books there. But you want to make this almost like an altar for what kind of relationship do you want to bring into your world. So
Yeah,
you don't want to leave it empty, because now you're just bringing in emptiness,
yeah, you don't
right?
want to pay. Don't want to pay
Right?
it all.
You don't want
Yeah,
that. So you want to put stuff in there that's that shows the kind of relationship you want to have.
yeah, that makes sense. What are your thoughts, Jeanette, about virtual water and everything like that? Because I've seen a lot of people that get these apps, and the apps are usually waterfalls or they're water running, but they're fake water, and they've even seen it like on people's Spotify channels and everything like that. So I just wondered your thoughts around that and whether they are effective or not. And I don't think that I've really tried them, even though I've seen them all the time advertising. It might be a waterfall in the Nile or a waterfall that somebody found somewhere or another, but it's just kind of like off of the phone, and it's just like the water running sounds and everything. So I just wanted your thoughts around that, or would you rather have the real thing?
Well, always the real thing. But
Right.
here's the thing, like you may be someplace that you need the water, especially if you're really a water person.
Mhm.
I have a friend who's a major water person. She lives to be by the water. She lives in the middle of Arizona. There's no water, you know? And so what is she going to do? So she does have some pictures of waterfalls in her house because
Right.
it makes her feel good. And
Right.
she should get a pond, but anyway, I'll tell her next time. You should get a pond. But
Yeah.
I don't think she wants more work to do either. She's got enough going on. So it's, maybe if you're really stressed out, maybe you've got a really stressful job, and you're coming home or you're going to work and you're on the bus or you're in the car. What are you going to do? And that's what calms you
Right.
down. If that's your tool to calm down, it works. Our brain is an amazing thing. And here's the thing that's really fascinating. So this is why people do affirmations and stuff like that, and visualizations. So our brain doesn't know the difference between what we tell it and what is sometimes. And so even if it's not, even if it's quote unquote fake water, it's still getting that sound of the water in there. That's still the visual sound of it, the visual look of it. And it's still going to have a calming effect on our body.
Yeah.
Now, other people who are maybe more mountain people, they might go, yeah, maybe they're in their daily life, they get to see enough water. Maybe you live by the beach and you're
Okay.
like, yeah, whatever, right? But if you're a water person and you need a daily exposure to water and you live where there's no water, this is a great alternative. You know,
Yeah.
my friend who lives in Arizona, she used to live in Santa Barbara. She couldn't afford Santa Barbara. She ended up in Arizona, and she's happy there, except she really misses the beach.
Mhm.
Well, you got to create your own beach. How do you do that?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that makes sense. You got to create your own beach and everything like that. I was actually thinking too. unusual thoughts. I'll share both of them with you and everything like that. One is that I remember when there was a particular water item that was incredibly popular and everything. I don't think I ever owned one, but I do know friends, including family members, that owned them and everything like that. I was always afraid that they might get a little too topsy turvy, and I also know that I am notorious for having pins in my pocket, so I might poke a hole in it and wind up, if not drowning, at least getting very wet and everything. But I'm thinking to myself, when the water beds were very popular in like the 70s and the 80s and maybe even the 90s. I don't know if they're still as popular as
Wow.
they used to be, but the water bed used to be a big thing. And I'm going like, no, no water bed. With my luck, I broke
70s.
the water bed, and it'd be like some major mess and everything along those lines. So, but I do know water beds used to be very popular back in the day and everything. So I don't think people
In
are
the
trying to be.
80s, I had a flotation bed, which was very similar to a water bed. But a water bed, you had a wood frame around it, and then you
Right.
just had the thing. And I had a cousin that had it, and I loved going to her house. We'd just go playing on the water bed. It was a lot of fun. But the flotation bed had a foam piece, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches, and it was a twin size bed. So you got 8 inches of foam on what's 36. So there wasn't a lot of water in the middle at that point, right? So um, it was much firmer than a water
But,
bed. It
right.
didn't have as much places to go. The foam held it in place a little better, and yeah,
Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
cool.
Yeah.
I brought it
Yeah.
to college with me my first year, and then I didn't my second year, and I don't know what happened to it. My mom things disappeared in my mother's house. If it wasn't being used, it got disappeared, and so
Things disappear.
yeah.
They did get disappeared. You know, today is a sad anniversary too, and everything. And that's what the other thing that I was thinking about water, because today was actually the anniversary day, some 20 years ago, of Hurricane Katrina. So Hurricane Katrina. So sometimes water can have its devastating impacts as well. So this is
Has it
hurricane
really
season.
been 20
Definitely,
years?
it was 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
and it
got to
was.
see New Orleans before Katrina, and I
Uh,
also got to go back afterwards. I went back twice. One was just about a year after, and then one was maybe 5 or 6 years after. And the devastation was just so much. And I had friends. The second time, I had friends who lived there, and they were telling me all this stuff and showing me pictures, and it was just like Altadena was bad. It was bad, but Katrina was much
yep.
worse.
Much worse. And that's today, August 29th, is the 20th anniversary. That's it literally landed on the Gulf Coast on today's date and everything like that. So there's some events going on to commemorate that occasion. But yeah, it's been 20 years. It's hard to believe it was that long ago. But yeah, it was 20 years ago that that particular hurricane hit and everything. You didn't answer my question earlier and everything, and I'm getting off of water just for a second. But what are your thoughts around? Because I've got a friend who's been like, you should get one of those. Those are cool and everything like that. And I know that most houses have the mirror in the bathroom and maybe a couple of mirrors in the living room and everything. But they were like, in an apartment, everybody should have a stand-up mirror and everything like that because they can be decorative as well. So, what is your thoughts around stand-up mirrors, or do you even like stand-up mirrors in a apartment or a house? But there's those long stand-up mirrors.
Well, I think every woman wants a stand-up mirror because we want to see what we look like, and that's the best place to see it. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do it. I have an armoire that has a long mirror, and that's my stand-up mirrors in the armoire.
Gotcha.
And so it doesn't have to be, there's a lot of ways you can do it. Shoot, have you seen there's a mirror that you can put on the wall, and it doubles as an exercise coach, and
Oh,
you can, I haven't played with it, but you tell it what kind of exercise you want to do, and it'll model it for you, and you do it in front of the mirror.
oh wow.
So there's a lot of, you can do mirrors that disguised as televisions. Now
Oh
that's
yeah.
not a long mirror, but if you've got a big enough TV, you stand back, you can stand in that space. So a lot of people have it's hard to buy a small TV actually these days. You're just buying a monitor because the monitors are the sizes of TVs like when we were kids. And so a lot of people have these big 48, 60-inch TVs. And so you can put a mirror on the wall and put the TV behind it, and it's a two-way mirror. Is that
Yep.
right? And then when the TV comes on, the light behind the TV goes through the mirror, and you see. Now, if you're somebody who like it does distort the picture a little bit. So if you're somebody who's like looking for every single detail in the picture, you don't want that. But that is another way to do mirrors. And mirrors are very, from a feng shui aspect, mirrors are very important. You always, 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 always want to look at what you're reflecting in the mirror.
Right.
So if you're reflecting something that's a mess in the mirror, let's say you've got a, a mirror in your closet. Well, you want to make sure that what's opposite is not a mess.
Right.
Because otherwise you're going to be bringing mess into your house.
Yeah.
And the other thing from a design perspective is it is a way to make the house look bigger. But that only works if what you're reflecting does that. So
Yeah.
there's a museum here. It was by the guy who built Merle Norman Cosmetics. And so the museum is called San Simeon. And he's got all these amazing old cars, automatic instruments. So like a player piano, but he's
Right.
got a player violin. He's got all these really old instruments, and everything in his place works. He won't have anything in his place that doesn't work. So he also collects furniture. So he has this dining room, and it's beautiful. And what he did was there's a mirror here and there's a mirror here. And in the middle is there's this gorgeous chandelier. So what's reflecting is they keep reflecting each other. So it looks like this big hall of mirrors when you look into it. And it looks like there's 20 chandeliers and not just one. And it's so beautiful. So you really want to be aware of what it is you're projecting. You don't want it to be reflecting your toilet. You want it to be, you don't want it to be reflecting the couch that the dog sits on and makes a mess on, and you want it to be reflecting something beautiful. Beauty has so much power in our minds. I think a lot of people go, oh, well, that's not important. It's just pretty. And beauty doesn't matter. That's just stuff rich people do. Or, you know, I don't care what things look like. But the truth is that all of this stuff does affect us. And we all have different ideas of what beauty is, but beauty does affect us. And being in a space that's ugly does affect us 100%. And a lot of apartments, they paint everything white or gray or beige, and it's boring. It's boring. And so, and then they won't let you paint. A lot of places won't let you
Yeah,
paint
a
at
lot of
all.
places won't. Okay.
Yeah, and that's not cool, I think. But I understand their point. But if you're going to live there for a long time, you should be able to paint. And my
I agree.
feeling is like, if, okay, I'll paint it white before I go. You know,
Hey,
I
back in
lived
the
in
original
California
color.
for 3 years, and I was like, I was ready to paint, but we kind of, it was my second year there. Somebody was stealing my electricity, and
Wow.
so yeah, the guy downstairs worked for the electric company.
So what?
And as soon as he moved in, my electric bill doubled. Hmm.
Wow.
And I called and I talked to the Edison. They said, "Well, we don't deal with apartments." I'm like, "There's a problem here. There's a big problem here. I'm one person. I'm not doing anything different, and my bill is suddenly double. There's a problem here." "Oh, well, we don't
Right.
take care of that, ma'am." So I went to the apartment office, and they said, "Well, no, his is moving." And I'm like, "Well, they didn't know anything either." I said, "Look, He moved in, and my electricity goes double, and he works for the SCE. What do you think is going on here? It doesn't take a genius to put two and two together and come up with four. Pretty obvious.
Exactly.
And they're like, well, but his is, his is. I'm like, well, there's a problem. Thankfully, he only stayed for a year, and then as soon
Gotcha.
as he left out, guess what? My electricity bill went right back down. So
Mm.
anyway, I was kind of like, apartments are not for me. If this is how easy it is and nobody cares and nobody does anything, I'm like, I just got to pay his electricity bill for a year. How wonderful was that? And I'm sure what he did was he probably moved on a regular basis to just do that. But the cost of moving, the cost of moving is more than what his electricity bill was. I mean, like
Mm.
that's just because I can, you know.
Yep, it makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking what you were talking about with the closets and everything, because sometimes we forget what we got in the closet and everything like that. So I was, not this month, because this month was mild, like I said, but when it was hot a couple of months ago, I was like, I think that there's a fan in the closet. And sure enough, that's where the other fan was. It was in the closet. I didn't in the closet. So I was like, that'll work. I'll put the fan out here and everything. So it definitely kept it a little bit cooler as well, because I did not know where I had put that fan at, but it was tucked in the closet.
It's amazing how much closets can hold.
Yep. Yep.
I'm actually helping two of my friends do some clean outs right now, and yeah, it's amazing how much you can fit in a space,
Yep.
and it doesn't come in. That's the problem, is it doesn't happen. If somebody just, here's 50 things for you to put in your house, you like laugh at them, right? But it comes in one at a time, two at a time, and you're like, oh, I can find space. I can find space.
Yep.
At some point,
That's
you
for
can't
sure.
find space,
It's not the space, because you can find the space and then the space disappears and then you don't have enough space.
right? I've told both of them, before you buy anything else, you have to throw something away. But
Yep.
they won't. They won't.
And
One, they're they're both children of depression people,
gotcha.
and so they just. I mean, not everybody was so scared in the depression, but a lot of people really struggled during the depression,
Oh
and
yeah.
that stayed with them. You don't throw stuff away, and unfortunately, they're not. You know, they throw trash away. I mean, they're not that bad, but there's a lot of stuff. There's a
Yep,
lot of stuff.
definitely. You mentioned earlier about the water, but there's another thing that I know can be very fun as well. And I don't think I've ever had one, but I think I've had some family and friends that have had them and everything like that. But I was wondering, maybe it'd be fun to give you that sense of sparkle in your life and everything. If you get one of those lights that's also kind of like a prism, so it gives you like that little fancy light and everything along those lines. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they look like they're really cool and everything like that. But they're kind of like those prism lights and everything. So what is your thoughts around those? But they're like the fancy lights that kind of like
Like in
shine.
Pollyanna, like in
Right.
Pollyanna, when she says there, it's a glad thing, and she goes to the old lady's house, and she takes all the crystals off her lamp, and she puts them in the window,
Right.
and does a string across to create all the prisms and rainbows.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That could be.
I I do believe that our home is a reflection of us, and it is our castle. And yes, it should be beautiful. And there's things that you got to do to make you happy. I did a trade show the last couple of days, and I was talking to the guy in the booth across from me, and one of them, and about to get married. So I said, well, I'll give you my 2 cents on, he's asking me questions, and I give him my 2 cents. And I said, look, you've got to keep date night up. You've got to keep the romance alive. I said, I don't care if you put a tent in your dining room and do something. Like, it doesn't have to be expensive. And there'll be kids, and you may not be able to afford babysitters. I said, but you got to make it every Friday night, whatever day it is. You have to say, this is our night.
Right.
And even if it's, you bring her flowers home or pick flowers from the yard, just, you've got to do something to say, this is our special time, and you never let that go. And it's so important to keep that connection, especially when you get kids and you're building careers and everything. And it's like, it's so easy to go, oh well, I got to get through this project. I got to get through this thing, this that, this deadline. And the deadline comes and goes, and like 2 years from now, do you remember what the deadline was? No.
You don't remember the
But
deadline?
2 years from now, when you and your partner are separated because one of you got sick of waiting on the other person, always being busy, you're gonna feel that.
Oh yeah,
You know.
you definitely gonna feel that. Just really quickly, because right now mine are kind of scattered around. They probably should be in a designated area and everything like that. But I know other people are like me. They're probably scattered around. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at one of them right there, and I know that the other two or three are on top of a drawer and everything like that. So, do you think that games should be in a designated area? Let's call it a game spot or something like that. Because right now I know that this Monopoly game is over here next to the computer, but I also see what I think is Yahtzee and maybe a jigsaw puzzle and maybe a chess set that's over there by the Chester drawer and everything like that and everything along those lines. But they're not all in one designated area. But I know some people that are very organized where they have the games, whether it's for adult games, and these are probably considered more like adult games or children games, that they're going to have children and they're all like in a game area and everything. I think that's even what my brother has. I think he's got an area where both the video games as well as their other games are all in a centralized area. So, what is your thoughts around there being a centralized game area?
Depends on how you live. I mean, if you got kids need a place to play. They
Right.
do. You want to have the living room off limits and fancy and everything. That's fine. The dining room. But kids need a place that they can play. So I think it's really important that you have that. Some people have libraries, and maybe the games even become part of the decor.
Right.
And maybe you've got a chess table and the chess game is out. I was cleaning out closets, and we found this so cute, so cute. It's this little tic tac toe thing, right?
Hmm.
And instead of X's and O's, it was cats and mice, and
Okay.
they were bronze. They were heavy. Now this is a little thing, but that could go on a coffee table. That could be part of the decor
Right.
as well. So it just depends. Some people have beautiful chess sets,
Hmm.
gorgeous chess sets. That can be out. That can be in a living room. That can, if you want to, depending on, you got a big master bedroom, maybe you've got a little nook or something. Maybe you like to play chess before bed. You can put a chess table there. So it really depends on how you live. Now, if you've got kids, they need a room, plain and
Right.
simple. And it depends on how decorative it is. If they're just, you can make it part of your decor
Yep.
and really have fun with it. You can create, maybe you don't need your living room, maybe that's your game room.
Yep.
Maybe, and does that mean that there can't be, some people are big gamers. So
Hmm.
maybe you do have that, but maybe you still have a game on the dining room table. I have a client who had a special, we had a special table made for him. So you've seen maybe the pool tables that
Hmm.
you can put a top on, so it can be a dining table, but then
Yeah.
you take the top off and it's a pool table. So it can be in your dining room, right? But
Yeah,
this was,
that's what we have at mom's house. It's a that we oftentimes have to adjust it for. In fact, we'll have to adjust it in this is August in 3 months for Thanksgiving and everything because it's got the leaves in it, so you got to like pull it out to make it a fuller table and everything like that. So it's a smaller table when she's there by herself. It's just kind of like a small table from her and maybe a few company guests and everything. But when me and my brother and the nephews and it's a bigger crowd, and she has to pull it out and make the table expand and everything like that. So we sit there and make it expand. Today is well,
his
last week.
his table, the leaves come off, and it's
Uh,
for his, like, World of Warcraft. It's for his role playing games that
oh
he
wow,
likes to play. So those take a long time.
right.
So instead of having to pull it all apart and put it back together, he just puts the top back on the table, and now it's a table again. And when his friends come over, they just take the table off, and it comes in pieces, so it's not hard, right?
Mhm.
And they take the table off, and now they've got their game, and it's just like that. So it really depends on what kind of games you like, and what, how you, what's your lifestyle, how often do you play them. I've got games I've never touched. I mean, that's just
So
me.
I
How
don't
many
think I've
times
ever touched that
have
Yahtzee game. I think it's just sitting there because I went to a flea market and thought it was cool, but I don't think I've ever played that game. Even I know how to play that particular game. I don't think I played it. I haven't even played the Monopoly game, but I will play that at some point because that's a Monopoly game centered on this particular city. Because they apparently there are various ones. There's probably one even where
God,
you are in California. So they're designated with sites that are uh, specific to the place that you're playing with. So like this particular one is the Durham one, so that it ties Duke and different other things that people would come to if they were coming here. So instead of like your regular boardwalk, it's something like I think Red Boardwalk, which is a fancy neighborhood, is probably Trayburn, which is like our kind of like fancy area, kind of like our version of Beverly Hills and everything like that. So it's probably something like that and all along those lines and everything like that. I did have a question because, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. I know shortly and everything. And I told you, you always have great jokes. And sometimes we laugh out in and we talk about water and stuff like that. But on January, this past Monday was the first day of Julius's senior year, which means that around this time, well, in about a year, in May of next year, he'll be going off to college somewhere or another and everything. So, from a interior designing standpoint, what are some things that he needs to be thinking about now as he plans for his future of being out on his own a year from now? Because he is my oldest nephew, and I think that's Julius Langston will have those same thoughts the year after. But I'm thinking that maybe he wants to start trimming down stuff so he knows what to take with him and everything like that. Because he just said he wants to go to college. He wants to go be a lawyer, and his brother wants to be a civil engineer. So there's things that he needs to be thinking about now in terms of planning for a year from now.
well, I don't know that he needs to start now, but he is going to college.
Yes, he is.
Well, then it's just bare bones if he's going to college. Now, there's a new thing. They're doing college design now, and the colleges are putting more effort. Like when we went to college, you had a bed, you had a desk, and you had a closet, and
You were doing good.
right. And now I did have a suite mate, and she brought in drapes, and she brought in a rug, and she was a single, by the way. She was a what they called an art resident assistant, and so she didn't have to share with somebody, but it was just hers. If you're rooming with a stranger, like you don't know what their style is,
Right.
and so I think you know do you want a picture on the wall? He can bring a couple pictures, maybe a bedspread. The hard thing is kids today have so much stuff,
Oh yeah.
and just increasingly we've become more and more and more about stuff, and
Right.
how much stuff we had when we were kids compared to how much stuff they have when right now is very different. They're not going to have the same amount of clothing space. They're not going to have. They're just not going to have. So, like I said, I don't. Video games, stuff like that, and then you also have to remember, like I didn't worry about any of this too much when I was in school, but I think guys may have to worry about it a little bit more than girls, especially depending on what kind of, the kind of people they hang out. But remember, this is not just a bedroom, this is a living room as well. And so you want to have stuff. If there's something that you really, really love and is really, really valuable, don't bring it.
Yeah.
If it's something you're going to cry about, like if this breaks and it's something, no, you bring stuff to school that, you can bring stuff that you love. You can bring posters. You can, but this is not your permanent setup. This is a temporary situation.
Yep. Yep.
And, I mean, when I was in college, we had We had a pillow fight. There was a ton of us in this room. We had a pillow fight. Well, nobody did anything on purpose or anything, but somebody hit me in the head with a pillow, and I ended up breaking my nose.
Oh no.
Right, and it was fine, but that could have been an item that was valuable too, and so you just don't know what's going to happen if they're partiers. There's going to be drinking in there. People do stupid stuff when they drink, and you just got to be aware of what are you bringing into the space and who might be in your room, and especially your freshman year. You don't know who you're living with. You have no idea. Do you have suite mates that have access to that may have access to your space? One of the colleges I went to, they had, I didn't think this was a great idea on so many levels, but they had a room of girls and a room of boys, and then they shared a living room area. And I'm like, okay, if you know each other, that could be great. As freshmen going into that, I don't think so. It just opens up things on so many levels that yeah. It, what if the guys are messy and the girl, guys tend to be more messy than girls. Although I know, no, we had some pretty messy girls on our floor too. But, that's just a lot of people that somebody's cleaning up after, and you just don't know what their lifestyle is. Some people, oh, we're gonna have a party in the room every night. Okay, you need to study in there. Vice versa.
Well, I did do that one time a long time ago, and I don't know that I'll ever do that again because it was an interesting experience. I think I told you this before, but um, I went to college for 4.5 years. My last semester, I was not 100% sure. Well, I didn't do what you're supposed to do, so I did not have a dorm room lined up and everything like that, and I just knew I needed to get my last couple of courses completed so I could get my degree, which I did get, and everything like that. But I had no place to stay. So in my senior plus year or senior plus semester, fortunately, my friend Danny Hermosillo, still living in Texas, I think maybe around El Paso or Laredo or something like that, was staying in a dorm because he was a part of a frat. So my senior year or senior plus year, I wound up living in a frat house and everything like that. It was definitely an interesting experience, but yeah, I was
I,
living in that frat house and everything like that. Where they did what they did, I just tried to get my last couple of courses completed so I could get the heck out of Dodge. But they were there having their little parties and dancing and doing everything else. I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? I knew I should have done better in terms of being planned and prepared. But yeah, I lived in that frat house for one semester.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people, he's going to need sheets, he's going to need bedding, which he can take his bedding from home, or if he wants a separate bedding, he can bring that. You know, um, I think the biggest shock, at least my memory of freshman year, was we had shared bathrooms my freshman
Mm-hmm.
year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like one girl had her little shower caddy. Like
Yep.
figuring that kind of stuff out. Like, okay, that's the sort of stuff that you're used to, just going in the bathroom, everything you want is there, and you go do your thing, and then if you're sharing a bathroom, you're bringing stuff back and forth all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of kids, it is their first time of, I have to wash my laundry, I
Yep.
have to, and that's, he needs a laundry basket. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's, unless,
Yep.
so I think for a lot of kids, it's their first time doing a lot of that. It's a step towards independence. I wouldn't say it's full independence, but of taking care of themselves. I gotta go to the commons and eat. If I don't
Right.
want to eat there, I gotta find out food on my own. It's not just magically in the fridge, you know?
Yep. I hear you. That's very true. But that'll be interesting to see. I'm waiting to see what he does. This will be, I get the report this week, Labor Day weekend, on the first week in school. Like I said, this was his first week of his senior year and the first week of his brother's junior year. But yeah, I'm just proud of my nephews that they know what they want to do. Now we all know that that could change. They could be deciding they want to be doing something totally different next week, or because kids can be very fickle and everything. But for right now, the oldest one says he wants to be a lawyer. There is no lawyer degree in undergraduate, so he'll probably end up going into like poli sci or something like that for his undergraduate degree and everything like that. And then the younger one says he wants to be a civil engineer. I think part of that is that my brother's girlfriend's son, which is like his other play brother and everything like that, or one of his other play brothers, is in that same field. So I think he's thinking he's going to get that degree and they'll operate their own firm together. That's what I think that they're working on and
Cool.
everything. And that could be cool. That could be happening and everything like that. But you'll get a kick out of this, and then we'll play Can Do Spices afterwards. But I was talking to Celia, which is my brother's girlfriend's daughter, and she's a teacher now. I think this is her second or third year of being a teacher after graduating from college. And she was telling me something that you said, even in your own business, which is that it's not the kids that are driving her crazy, it's the parents, because the parents are wanting to be so demanding, and it's the parents, and actually she said it's the adults, because it's also the administrators and everything like that that are driving her crazy. Because she was even saying that she ran into one that wanted to give a little bit of an attitude just because she wasn't being seen first. And I think Effie, which is the young lady's name, was going like, you see, I got a bunch of students, a bunch of students and a bunch of parents I got to talk to. Just because you're here doesn't mean that you are prima donna persona number one, and then I got to jump a hoop to get to you and everything like that. So,
My
sometimes
ex was a teacher. He taught junior high,
Mhm.
and it, bless those who have the calling to do it. But
Yeah,
it's very difficult. And he'd call the parents, your kid's not turning your homework in, this whatever. And he called one parent, and he could just hear the exhaustion in the woman's
right.
voice. And she's like, I'll tell his parole officer. Like, she was done. She didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
And he had another kid. He's 6'2", and this kid was as big as him. And he cornered him like this. He got him in a corner. The kid got him in the corner, and and was kind of threatening him.
yeah,
And it's like they're so limited. And the other thing too is, he's like, if a girl wanted to stay after school, he had to go get another teacher. If a girl had a question after school, he had to go to get another teacher to be in the room with him, so that there wasn't any
acquisitions.
right. And so it's tough. And I think too, as this guy who cornered him, he, as a guy, he was able to, you guys do your guy thing, and it worked out. But can you imagine if that was a woman?
Well,
And
not only
you
that, but imagine if you're that close in age. Because, like I said, I think that Effie graduated maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, so she's probably in her early to mid 20s, like somewhere between 23 and 24, and everything like that. And then some of these kids that she's teaching are, I think she's doing somewhere between sixth and eighth grade, which means that they are 14 or 15 years old, which isn't that far apart from where her own age is and everything like that. And then the parents are, in some cases, because some of them are late life parents, like maybe they had a kid when they were 30 or 40. So in some cases, they're double her age, which then gives them this belief that they have a little bit more right to talk a certain way at her, even though she's the one that is the responsible figure and the authority figure in this particular case. But some people, just because they're older, think that they are the authority figures, even though it's not their field.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this has been a fun conversation, and we managed to get through it and have all kinds of fun conversations. But right now, are you ready to go get some Kentu Spice?
I am.
Let's go do that. Let's get some Kentu Spice.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.